Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this third TCG Global Insights panel. I see a lot of people are continuing to add. We have quite a few already on, so thank you for waiting for a few minutes as we get started. We will start in about 60 seconds, so grab your coffee, sit down, and we look forward to talking with you. All right, we're going to get started. So we've got a lot to cover today. Hello again. Thanks so much for attending this third TCG Consulting Global Insights panel. I'm Christy Harner, the Chief Marketing Officer of TCG Consulting. I hope you are all well and safe and in good spirits today as we're all joining together to grow and learn and adapt in this ever-changing environment. It has been such a pleasure and honor to welcome leaders from companies around the world over the past month to speak about this impact of COVID-19 on travelers, T&E programs, travel managers, and now suppliers and leaders who work with them, such as chief procurement officers, one of whom we have on our panel today. So we've had 3 so far, as you can see. And for today, before we begin, I just want to let you know and invite you to send us a question during the panel. If anything that is said sparks your interest, we are honored that the leaders from global suppliers on our panel today have expressed a desire to ensure that every question is answered related to air and hotel. So even if we can't discuss your question or comment today, they will be addressed after the event, and we will include the answers in a follow-up email along with a link to this video. For those who may have missed the previous panels, you can check out our Global Insights page at tcgconsulting.net/panel to get all of the previous videos, a lot more information, content and resources, and in the coming weeks, as our team is currently developing some solid materials to help our customers and our colleagues as we rebuild together after this crisis. So without further ado, I'd like to hand this panel over to the host, Albert Terrace, the president and founder of TCG Consulting. Albert, take it away.
Thank you, Christy. And so I want to welcome everyone again. And I especially want to thank our previous panel sessions 1 and 2. Boy, they set a high bar, and the feedback and the comments and the questions and exchange have been tremendous. And so for Tammy and Jake and Jose, we've got our work cut out for us, but as we've talked about, something we're ready to take on. I want to thank Jamie and Ike and Bruce and Brett and Doug Weeks and Doug DeBaltso and Mark Zuber of Nestle for setting that bar, one that we're going to gladly accept here. Today's session will dive into the interdependencies between suppliers and clients and how we work together in an uncertain road. We have by far the largest registration, right? And in our pre-meeting, I talked to Tammy and Jake about their following around the world. And so if you want to fill an audience, right, get Tammy and fill the room. And I want to thank that. I've also had the pleasure of working with Jose for the better part of a decade. He's clearly one of the bright minds and industry futurist in terms of integrating travel, meetings, payment, expense. He understands the supplier side and the buyer side and the interdependencies there, and that's going to make for a great panel with senior people from hotel and air and on the buy side as well. And so this is hugely important, right? The interdependencies and the outcome of how we work together will enable economies and life, whatever that looks like, and going forward, right? It's something we have to explain to our kids and in some cases to our elders about what does this look like and what does it mean, and a key cog in that is how we get to from places, and that'll be a part of our future, albeit that it may look very different. To accomplish this and accomplish today's objective, I'm hugely honored to be amongst a great company. And so Tammy and then Jake and then Jose, if you would individually introduce yourselves, and then let's go ahead.
Fantastic. Well, I'll go ahead and get started then. My name is Tammy Routh, and I have the privilege of leading Marriott's global sales organization. And there's around 640 of us globally, and our responsibility is to manage our largest B2B customers for the company. That could be our corporate travel buyers, meeting planners, associations, all our third-party partners, whether that's the TMCs, retail travel agencies, wholesale, I could go on. But our job is to manage those customers on behalf of Marriott International, and we represent all 7,300 hotels and all of our brands. And it's great to be here today. Thank you again for inviting me.
Wonderful. Jake, please.
Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, I want to thank Christy and Albert for putting this forum together. It really is so important that we're highly communicative with our customers right now, and the more platforms that we have, the better. So thanks for putting this together and for inviting United to be a part of it. I do what Tammy does for United. Essentially, I oversee our worldwide sales force, and Marriott and Tammy are great partners to United, and so it's really an honor to have a chance to sit on a panel here with Tammy. And then Jose, I know you've been a great partner to United for many, many years, and I've heard the name for a long time, and sorry we haven't had a chance to meet before now, but appreciate your partnership and also look forward to co-hosting this panel with you.
Jose, please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. First of all, thanks for inviting me to participate in this panel. I think it's very important, as you said, to communicate often and clearly as we go through this terrible time that has befallen on our industry and the world. My name is Jose Manuel Pariente. I am the Chief Procurement Officer for White & Case. We're a global law firm with 44 offices in 30 different countries. I look after the global procurement function and have been with the firm, associated with them for almost 14 years now. So I look forward to your questions. I look forward to discussing the three questions that were posted in advance. So thank you very much.
Perfect. So Christy, let's go. I want to remind the audience, welcome to submit questions as we go. I'm going to do my best, and we've talked with Tammy and Jake and Jose about potentially interweaving some of the questions as I see them. So if you see me looking on different panels or eyes moving, I'm trying to get that and maybe help form some of the answers or questions to allow for broader answers. So please go ahead and send them. Our agenda today is in three structured formats. I appreciate everyone who submitted suggestions for questions, right? We've got a bunch, and try to whittle them down and streamline them where we could. So beyond the headlines, right? Everything we look at and read, what's really going on, what is the impact and what are the discussions in the various companies. Second part will be what does the value proposition look like, and does it change from where it is today? And what is going to be the future of how suppliers and their customers will work together? And so with that, I'd like to start with our first question. And that is, Jake, I'm going to have you kick us off, right? So forget about what we're reading and what we wake up to every day, right? What's going on inside United, and what are the things that we're not hearing about or seeing, and things that we wouldn't quite understand unless we were inside United day to day. And then Tammy, you'll be the second, and then Jose, you'll follow up on that from your perspective. Jake, your shot.
Great, thanks, Albert. And I think I will start with a couple of headlines just to make sure that everybody does have a grounding in kind of what the actual landscape is. I think you probably all know now that business travel is down about 95% across the globe, and that's, I think, what's a little bit unique about this crisis versus some others that we've been through, is that it truly is a global impact. And so starting out with a 95% reduction in demand clearly has a potentially catastrophic impact on revenues, and our revenues have tracked about with that decline in demand. And so, given the fact that that it's such a steep, precipitous, and deep drop-off that has an uncertain return, I think that's where you start leading into kind of some of the things that are behind the scenes. Clearly for us, what's most important right now is to maintain a cash balance and to access liquidity. And the way that we do that, we've had a number of activities relative to that. We've been able to access financing on the open market. We obviously were participating in the payroll support program that was part of the CARES Act, where the government essentially gave us a grant and access to a low interest loan that supported payroll through September of this year. And then we are essentially trying to get our cash burn rate as low as we possibly can, because that just buys us more time to be able to kind of weather this, what we think is going to be an extended low demand period of time. What you don't probably see in the headlines is that United has been on really a great path over the last 3 to 4 years relative to operational reliability, growing our network significantly, upgrading hard products and services both on the airplanes and at airports, as well as significant investments in the customer experience, some of the softer aspects of the customer experience. And that's resulted in a great trend over several years that we expect to continue into the future on improving customer satisfaction. And in fact, in most metrics, we're 1 or 2 from a competitive standpoint. And you may wonder, hey, are you able to sustain that? Is this going to completely derail that strategy, or will you pick up where you left off? And I think the short answer is that is a fundamental strategy that's going to help make United a better service provider for our customers and help us more successful for our investors and help make us a great place to work. And so we're very much going to stick to that strategy. But there's no doubt that it's going to be delayed because we are challenged with a high fixed cost structure and very low revenue now. What it's going to mean is that when we come out of this and we do see a recovery in revenue, much of those resources are going to be devoted to rebuilding our balance sheet. And the need to have a strong balance sheet, I think, is more important than ever. And I think this shock to the system has kind of made that clear, that you've got to have a strong foundation. We're fortunate that we did, but we're going to have to rebuild because our cash burn rate is much higher than our income revenue generation capacity in this environment. And so I think what we'll see is that while we're going to stay on that strategy of all the things that I talked about that are improving the customer experience, it's going to be delayed as we have to, by necessity, have more of our resources go towards rebuilding that balance sheet versus investments in some of those strategic initiatives.
Great, appreciate that. Tammy, you want to pick up there, the hotel sector?
Yeah, so much of what Jake said, you would have seen my head nodding. I mean, we're in the same boat. You can read the headlines. We've got over 2,000 hotels closed, and it changed, those numbers change every day. And our occupancy is down 90%, 90%. It's, I think I'm going to highlight 2 things in this area about what's behind the headlines. One, I think you could probably predict. It's just impossible for me to articulate on this call today the impact to our people. The hospitality industry is a people business. It's about relationships. It's like nothing we have ever seen before in our company and in the industry as a whole, in that how fast this came at us. It came at us fast, and it's with devastating impact. And we just sit back and think about, how did this happen that we have all these people furloughed and on reduced work weeks? It's shocking to the system right now. And so what I wanted you just to know, like, I've been with Marriott 38 years. I've just never experienced anything like this. We're trying to figure out our new norm and staying really, really tightly connected to our customers during this time frame. For those of us still working at Marriott right now, we go into the office or our homes every single day with the mantra of, what are we going to do today to bring our people back? So that's number one. The second point that I thought might be interesting for those that aren't as close to the hotel business is that I'm just going to talk about Marriott now, but many of our competitors are the same way. Marriott does not own hotels. So all those 7,300 hotels I talked about and all those brands, those are individually owned hotels. So we either manage those hotels on behalf of the owner, or we franchise our brands to the franchisees. And the reason that that's important is when you listen to the news every day, you hear about the devastating impact to small businesses. Every hotel is a small business. And I think that that's something we need to think about, because we think about these big brands. Well, that's not how this operates in the hotel business. Every single owner has to make a decision every day. Do I keep my doors open, even if I only have 10 guests? So I'm gonna close out this section with saying that we have been so proud for the hotels that have remained open to be housing so many of the first responders. And that is just been really rewarding work. But I'd like for everybody to also think about the heroes that are serving in these hotels, because that, as they serve these first responders, these associates are also, putting their health and at risk, and we consider them heroes too. So I think those are a couple of the behind the scenes.
Love it. Yeah, some things that we would have not otherwise thought about, right? Jose, please.
Yes, thank you. So, you guys covered a lot of the points that I was going to make. I would just add that, the short answer is that we yet not know what the real impact beyond what we're dealing with and reading the headlines is and will be. I suspect that we all challenged in some way to operate differently than before. The real impact in economic terms will probably not be known for some time. But for now, I think we are dealing with in our own way with the impact of this pandemic. We are all trying to service clients the best we can. Certainly that's our focus. We are focused on revenue and collections the best we can. Cash preservation is very important. Vendor management in these times of uncertainty is certainly very important. Expense management, it was mentioned before, and how to manage our own resource, our own employees and partners and associates. While we continue to manage these, our focus will be inevitably to recovery. We have a bit of a positive spin, or I have a very positive spin, and we're focusing on how we're going to deal with the inevitable requirement. How do we prepare to reopen our office? What is the real impact is yet to be fully understood. We have a lot of offices, as many as you do, and how do we make sure that we ensure the safety of our partners, our associates, our business services colleagues? So we focused more in the future on a positive spin. Not that my colleagues were not positive, but I just wanted to kind of put a positive spin. We're focusing now on what is our social distancing plans, how we prepare our facilities for the new normal, whatever that's going to be, what type of access controls that will be implemented. I know that the airline industry, the hotel industry is also looking at those. How do we manage the people traffic? Inevitably, the social and economic impact of these measures will be felt by all businesses, and we don't really know what it's going to be until we kind of get through it and some time has passed. Employee communication continues to be paramount for us on policies and guidelines as we all shepherd our tribes through this very trying times.
Love it. Okay, so let's go to number 2 if we could, Christy, right? And so Tammy and I did some exchange yesterday on this one, right? And tried to understand who submitted that question, right? And there's some who might say that, not unlike real estate, there's buyer and seller cycle and who has the leverage and what is it, right? It has been, since the early 2000s, post 9/11, procurement has been predominant in managing travel. And as we get into broader travel, meetings, payment expense, integration, broader workflow, et cetera, even more influence on that. Does this change the game? And so, Tammy, what is the value proposition, or how will it look different? Or how do you start to think it'll look different into the future? I'll go there. Jose, you've got the follow-up to that, and then Jake, you'll close us out on this if you want to get ready. So Tammy, you're first up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give you my thoughts on this, but we so welcome our customers' feedback on this as well. We're all figuring this out together. I think that our goal and our value proposition has always been to be the world's favorite travel company. It's lofty, but that's our, and it remains our goal. But how we get there is going to look very different. We, for 92 years, Marriott, as you all know, has really kind of hung our hat on being this consistent brand. No matter where you go in the world, you can count on us for certain things. And that's whether it's safety, security, cleanliness, rigorous training of our associates, the hospitality aspect. But it's a new world. And I was actually just on a call with some of our leaders talking about, it's going to be interesting, instead of leading with some of the fun stuff that, you know, our Bonvoy program and our people, we're going to have to start leading with this idea of how do you get people to trust walking into a hotel again or getting on one of Jake's airplanes. It's building the trust back. And so we're going to have to lead with this cleanliness initiative. So last week, I hope all of you saw that there was a press release that announced that we have a global cleanliness council, not easy to say, that has been put into place to lead our company through this. And it's really, what is the next evolution of hospitality in this area? So our chief global officer for operations is leading this, and he's put together a really cool group of people. It's not just people in the hotel industry. It's there's somebody that's on it that is an expert in infectious diseases. Echo Labs is on there. They're a great partner for us in this space. There's somebody on there that's talking to us about the microbiology of food and beverage. Just some really, really interesting things. But let me give you, again, kind of inside the walls of what we're thinking about in this area, that holistically, number one, we're going to have to figure out what our new brand standards are. Because when you have a company this big with all those individual owners and brands, the only way you execute things across hotels, it must become a brand standard. That in order to fly the flag, you have to do certain things. And that's going to have to be in this space. So I think that's going to be interesting. One thing we're looking at is technology. Everything from using your phone to check into your room so you bypass the front desk, which is already in place in a lot of hotels. But I'm going to have to look down and read this one because I'm going to sound like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. We are putting into place these electrostatic sprayers. And we're piloting these in several hotels right now, and then they're going to be a brand standard going forward. We can keep all of you informed. But imagine this. You take hospital-grade disinfectant, and you put it into this tool that has electrical currents. And it takes that disinfectant that's already hospital-grade on steroids. And you can also massive clean our hotels, rooms, public space. So that's an example of what we're doing. We're also working on what does it mean to social distance in a hotel where typically it's an associate that's interacting with you. So again, the check-in process, housekeeping, food and beverage is going to be a big one, restaurants or meetings. And then we have a whole work track on what are meetings and events going to look like in the future. I mean, we're going to have to, again, develop that as an industry. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to see us leading with this kind of communication with our customers versus the normal things that we would talk about. Because if you don't trust walking in our doors, we're not going to recover. So I think I'll pause
Perfect.
with that. If that's enough on that one, do you think? Or
I love it. I love it. And we're getting a whole bunch of questions in there. And Jake, it'll maybe set you up. And then Tammy, you may want to add a trail on anything different. So the crux of it coming back has to be more than a marketing campaign, right? What is going to be an audit trail on these kind of thing? Jake, as you take that on, Tammy, if you want to think on adding anything other than what Jake might do, because they'll have a client vantage point and his is broad. I love it.
sure.
And then they've asked also Jake on United's approach to masks and where you are on that. So if you want to start there, Tammy, I may come back to you at the end, or we'll add time at the end to make sure we get that Jake your show.
Yeah, thanks, Albert. And I think, in fact, I know this because Tammy and I have talked about it. We have a very similar approach to what's going to be the emerging value proposition for corporate customers. And I think I think you all know that historically the value proposition for business travelers has been productivity. What airline, what hotel, what other service providers are going to allow me to maximize the productivity of my travelers? In the airline world, that translates to network and network fit. Here are all the places that I have travelers flying to, and here's the airline that best overlaps to serve the highest number of those travelers and with the shortest total journey time, nonstop flights being at a premium, and where there are multiple flights a day, having good time of day coverage that gives people flexibility. If a meeting gets out early, that they can go to the airport and not sit around all day waiting for their original flight, they can get on an earlier flight. So time of day coverage, network fit, overlap, all have been really important parts of the value proposition. And I think that they will continue to be important parts of the value proposition, but it's going to look different than it used to. And the reason is because all airlines are just going to be smaller when this crisis is over. Demand is going to take some time to recover. We're expecting we likely won't be back to 2019 levels of demand until possibly 2023 or even later. And so what that means is that we're going to be smaller in the interim period of time. And so at a hub where maybe we had 5 connecting banks spread out through the day, we may only have 2 connecting banks, meaning that's when all the flights come in, people get off of one flight, connect to another flight, and they depart. But we feel like we're still going to have a really strong network value proposition going forward, and that's still going to be important to customers because of the fact that, one, we have hubs that are really geographically well positioned throughout the country. And so because we have, in the kind of center of the US, Chicago, Denver, and Houston, even if we only have 2 banks at each of those hubs, that actually gives somebody in Columbus, Ohio, 6 different ways to get to Fresno because they can go over any one of those 3 hubs. Not every airline is going to be able to have that same value proposition. That's going to enable us to give both greater time of day coverage as well as more options for network fit with customers. The second part of that network value proposition is that our hubs are actually in the biggest business demand markets in the country. Think of Chicago, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Washington. And so because we are in the biggest demand hubs and we think that those will continue to be the biggest demand cities, we're going to be able to still serve more customers with nonstop flights. And so that network value proposition is going to emerge again. But for now, it really is, as Tammy said, it's going to primarily be building confidence in the safety of the travel system end to end. And it doesn't matter whether, Marriott can convince the traveling public that you're safe to hold an event or to stay overnight at a Marriott if you're putting yourself at risk getting there on the airplane. And the inverse is true. If we can convince people that you're safe on an airplane, but they're not convinced that they're safe in their meeting space, then travel's not going to come back. So it really needs to be a concerted industry-wide effort to build that confidence. At United, some of the things that we're doing, we are the first major U.S. airline to require our flight attendants to wear masks on board. We're also recommending that customers show up with masks and highly encouraging them to do that. We're sending in our pre-trip emails or texts encouragement for customers to do that. And we'll also be provisioning those, an excess supply on board just in case somebody didn't remember to bring their mask, that we're still going to, actually, I think we're going to try and do it in the gate area before they even get on board, but nonetheless, we'll be provisioning those. And so, but it's beyond, as corporate customers are thinking about a return to travel, and Jose will, I'm sure, speak to this far more eloquently, but as businesses are thinking towards the future and restarting travel, what businesses want more than anything else is certainty, or some, maybe even not even certainty, but some assurances. They want things to be predictable. And we've seen some very big customers come out with policies that say, they're not going to allow meetings to take place until summer of 2021. And I think the reason those policies are coming out is because they don't have a view in some sense of certainty or confidence how things are going to progress. And so at United, the way we're thinking about it is that we actually want to give people clarity around what our cleanliness, hygiene, distancing, and screening policies are for each phase of a restart. And we know that the phases are going to be phase 1, 2, and 3, and that each of those phases, if a region can have 14 days of flattening of the curve, then they can move to the next phase. If they don't get that, or if they get another spike, then they go back to the earlier phase. We want to have practices that are lined out for each one of those phases, and that gives companies the ability to plan. And if they can plan, then they don't have to say no travel until next summer. They can say travel under these conditions in each of the phases of a restart. So we think that that's going to be really important part of the value proposition as we move forward.
I love it. And Jose, I know I skipped the order, getting those two and getting your reaction from air and hotel. That's why I switched the order, setting you up. Your answer to what you've heard on the supplier side, please. We can't. I can't hear Jose. There you go. Perfect. You're up, Jose. Please. Yes, please. Thank you.
You know, this is a great question that is really not complicated for us. You know, we feel that our value proposition has been enhanced by the ability to continue to deliver superior care for our clients in these challenging times. I mean, we are in the advice business, right? We shepherd our clients through these turbulent waters. And so they want to feel that we are providing the best advice now more than ever. And so the question really is, you know, how do we deliver this? And the delivery vehicle. So, you know, my partners in the air and the hotel business have, you know, started to provide us with what is the comfort level that we will have in utilizing the supply chain. For us is a service chain. And so for us to be able to deliver superior service, I need to rely on a reliable air partner. I need to rely on a reliable hotel partner. Now, we have been somewhat fortunate that we can deliver, you know, with the current technology that we have, the service to our clients. But in very short order, we will have to start having some face time and travel again and staying in hotels again. So it's very comforting for me to hear that my partners in these service chain are, you know, seeing this challenge the same way we are. We need to focus on clients, and we need to be able to deliver the best service that we can. And we need these service chains to be as robust as we can be and better than they were before. So that's what I would add to this question.
I love it. He's giving us some answers, right? That final secret sauce there. We're going to jump to 3. For my panelists, I'm just watching time. We each got about 2 minutes on the next answer. I'm going to start with Jose. And then for Tammy and Jake, a lot of the questions are coming back, right? You've got people who want to be on your councils. They want to know audit trails, the phases. Will you test people getting on and off airplanes, right? The list is getting big. You see where they're going with that. But Jose, if you want to start this, what will we need from each other different in the future? I'm guessing that starts now and figuring out what future actually is, and it may follow phases. Jay suggested things aren't coming back to last year for another 3 or more years, right? Start with you. What do you think we need from?
Well, I want to be able to provide a very positive message here, and I keep coming back to trust. Trust that we will do the right things by each other. Trust that we will be transparent with each other. Trust that we will be honest with one another, with good news and less than good news. Trust that the relationships that will grow for the most part by treating each other with respect and empathy. Trust that in difficult times, the true character of peoples and institutions are revealed, and trust that the relationships that we have forged over many years will endure as we are taking time to live in each other's shoes. I think that's the message that we all need to kind of hear, and that is we all have relationships in this service chain, and they are strengthened because of how we react to challenges like this one. This is not the time to figure out how to take advantage or to figure a way to sever these relationships. These are the times to forge more stronger relationships. And so I want to give you that positive message. That's the way we see it from our firm. We like to give the message of hope. We will get through this together, and we will be stronger for it.
Encouraging, right? A New York state of mind. I love it, right? Tammy and Jake, I'm going to switch the order. Jake, you were supposed to go second. I'm going to go to Tammy because I reversed the order then. Tammy, then Jake. About 2 minutes each, please, Tammy.
Yeah, first of all, Jose, God bless you. Like that is everything that you said, I fully agree with. No one company or part of the supply chain can fix this. This is going to take a village. And I loved every adjective you just used in describing what it's going to take. I think partnership can be used very loosely, I think, in the business world, but we're going to have to mean it right now. And we're going to have to be very open with one another. For example, it could be even something as simple as we're about to come upon the BT pricing season in the hotel industry. It can't look the same. It can't. We don't have the manpower to pull it off. We don't have the data. We don't have the data to pull it off. How do we trust one another that we're going to do the right thing by each other to get that done? That's just a different way of thinking than we have had in the past, I think. I also think about, as you have, Jose, you start to travel again, and you've got not only your own people, but your valued clients that you're going to entrust in Jake and I. We got to have an open dialogue about what are we doing to ensuring, like in our case, our hotels are adhering to what we've talked to you about. In our case, I talked about it's brand standards, and brand standards mean that everybody has a balanced scorecard. And we need to be very transparent of how are we holding that general manager in that hotel accountable for your precious travelers. Same thing for meetings. I think we're going to ask we're going to ask a couple of our best customers, let's test some things. Do you have some meetings on the books at the end of the year that you want us to go in and just try new things with you to see what works? Food and beverage is going to be an interesting one. Not many people are going to want to put out a big buffet, anytime soon. So what does that look like? And let's test some things and let's try some things together, because we humbly at Marriott know we cannot do this on our own. It's going to take a village. So I think I'm just going to pause there. And Jake, I mean, anything you want to add? I don't want to take anything away from you.
Jake,
yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with what you both said, and Jose, I think transparency was kind of the key word that you used that I think is going to be so important, that there's just an ongoing higher level of communication between suppliers and their clients and customers than there ever was before, and that's going to be important for a number of reasons, and largely is to rebuild that, or not rebuild, but to reinforce and to build that trust. And listen, I mean, there is going to be no way as we kind of restart that we're going to be able to remove 100% of the risk of putting people on the road again. We need to be transparent with you and honest with you about what those, risky circumstances may be that still exist, so that you can weigh that risk against what the mission is of the business travel. And that's no different than where business travel was ever. If you send people to, certain third world countries, that there are risks of abductions or petty thefts or crimes or whatever. And you always, as long as you could understand that risk, you could weigh that risk against the mission of the business travel. And so if we're transparent with you around where some of those risks might still exist, then you can make the decision that's right for you. We also think there is going to be an obligation on the customer side as well to be good community members. And it's no different than when, certainly you go to the grocery store in San Francisco now, you have to wear a mask, you have to socially distance, you are provided with sanitizer and expected to use that when you touch something and put it back on the shelf. And so, and that's as a customer. And I think there are going to be other things that customers need to do just to be good members of the community when they're traveling for some time as well. And then I think just a final bit that it reinforces the need for the communication is we're going to need insights from you when you start traveling. We're going to want to know where you're going to be going to, with what sort of frequency, what volume, and that's going to be important because we have no real effective mechanism to measure demand right now. And so as we start building back up and putting flights back into the network, we want to put them in places that it's going to be meaningful to you. And so letting us know when you're going to be traveling and how much and to where is going to be really important and insightful for us to kind of start to rebuild that network as well.
I've got a bunch of questions. I'm trying to find a way to net them right together and knit them. And I'm going to go with the international one, temperature check, right? So what's very different, I think Jake started off with this isn't post 9/11 where we had standards and evolved to the world. This is global, and we're dealing with different markets and countries and their own impact and wishes, right? And in theory, we might have 200 protocols based on where we're connecting, where we're coming into, where we're coming out of, where we connect back, etc. Long way to go with the question is the changes now in international and immigration, temperature checking people on international long haul. If you can, 30 seconds each on thoughts about that and bringing back international. And I'm assuming these questions are predominantly coming inbound to the US, right? So Jose, first one, Jake second, Tammy, you'll close it up. I'll do a quick wrap on some notes I made, and Christy, you've got show. We've each got about a minute. Jose, you're up.
So we have been studying what is the requirements that we have on each jurisdiction for temperature control into the buildings. It looks right now like most of the buildings, particularly in Asia, are responsible for making sure that access control is on their agenda, not on the particular tenants. So in the US, it could be different, but we haven't made a decision, and we're still studying that here. In Asia, we definitely have that control from the landlords into the buildings.
Perfect. Jake, you want to add on United's perspective, immigration, international temperature checks, denying people on and off planes? Where are you?
Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, first of all, I will say about using temperature as a screening mechanism, it's not a panacea. We all know that a large percentage don't know exactly what it is. We all know a large percentage of people who are indeed infected never show any symptoms whatsoever. And so we really just need to have good hygiene and cleaning practices overall, regardless of whether or not we can screen out some percentage of people who are showing symptoms as indicated by a high temperature. And so I really think, you could end up with a false sense of security or confidence if there's widespread temperature screening. And then relative to international, we think international is going to be the slowest to return. One is because there are still going to be many border restrictions that haven't existed in the past, and there's going to be a tremendous amount of complexity with those border restrictions. And so not only will it be challenging to navigate.
We lost Jake.
Management partner, risk assessment partner, as well as the value of a TMC, who I think are going to, ultimately have a lot of these insights and develop their expertise. I think is going to be very, very important going forward. But there are going to be some individuals who just are reluctant to travel because they are uncertain around quarantine restrictions and potential border closures, and nobody wants to get stranded anywhere. And so we think international is going to be kind of the slowest to return because of that complexity that's going to be involved with that. And so that's kind of how we're viewing things right now.
Love it. Tammy, anything you want to add on to what you've heard?
I agree with what both said. I think what we're trying to do right now, we have these global calls multiple times a week to hear from the various regional leaders about the nuances. Jose, as you mentioned, in China, it's just now the new norm. You walk into a building, you get your temperature checked. So what's that going to feel like when borders do open and a Chinese traveler comes to the United States and you don't do that? Like that's going to be some interesting implications. I mentioned that Global Cleanliness Council. We're also thinking about you know, what's going to be the reaction of our customers when they check into a hotel and our people have a mask on and gloves, and it's all of those things. But there's no question, I think we could all agree, international travel will be the last to return for all the reasons that we say. And I think for us, we're just watching region by region, government restriction by government restriction, and forecasting our business accordingly.
Yeah. Hey, Albert, real quick.
Jose, you want to add? Yeah, please.
Or something. I mean, as a supply chain, or the service chain that I described becomes very important for us to be able to communicate the truth of what's happening in different locations in different places. And I'm not sure that there is a mechanism yet to do that, and perhaps we should think about how to implement one. But we need a truth channel that has the right information, timely information, and reliable information for our TMCs, for our hotel partners, for our air partners, and the users, so that we can convey to our travelers the right information at the right time and not have to rely on multiple sources that can be different at times and conflicting at worst. So I leave that up to you to think about how to create one of these, but I think we need a truth channel in our service delivery supply chain.
I like that.
A big part of TCG's work is working with customers, not only, and travel managers do that, and managers and suppliers, on how to bring people into consolidation, right? That's been a predominant effort for 15, 20 or more years, and managing bypass, the cost implication. I think now, not only if I take Jose's truth channel, right, because, and I take Jake's threads and some of Tammy's, people going out of the system is not going to be an option, right? Because we're not only not going to be able to know where they are, where to put them, and put them in Tammy's hotels or on Jake's plane, and then drive it through Truth Channel and through a medium that provides consistent of information that's going to change dynamically, right? So we're going to go into South Africa and we're going to connect in Frankfurt to get there, and they might not allow that while our traveler was on board because of a case or a hotspot or coming back, right? So creating a truth channel while creating, a higher value of managed system, we think is there. A couple points that I took away. Appreciate it. You guys, right? Number 4 now has the next bar. You passed the baton. You did great. I've got a page of notes, and just to let you know, the number of people who've dropped off and we have hundreds of people here, 3 people didn't make the all 45 minutes. That's huge, right? That's a compliment to you and the content. Thank you very much. So some things that have come out here, right? So we've heard a prediction of 2023 to get to 2019 level. I think Tammy, right? And you're right, we should have thought about it. I know this, been in the industry 35 years. Your Marriott brand is a conglomerate, an umbrella to 6,000 or 7,000 small businesses who hurt like the clothing store down the street here from us. And it's not just the big brand Marriott. I think the complexity, especially in international, the value of consolidation TMCs is a takeaway. I do love this truth channel and how is that developed in communication, especially because it's going to be dynamic and changing and frequently. And I think Jose's quote will be the one we'll take away. Figuring this out together, driven by truth and transparency, will keep both sides aligned together going forward. And the comments coming back from everyone, if you can achieve that and they can see that, they can promote it. And that'll bring our travel back. And maybe that's our takeaway from today. Guys, you were great. Appreciate it. I owe you. I look forward to when we can all be together, the 4 and the 5 of us, and talk about this. And let's be pulled out and figured out. Let's see where we got to. Christy, if you would wrap up our show, please.
Yeah. Thanks again for attending our 3rd TCG Global Insights panel. For anyone who didn't get a chance to send us a question that you wanted United or Marriott, Jake or Tammy to answer, feel free to reply to the email for the invitation you received, or send us a message on our panel page sometime today. Our next panel, you want to hear this, is May 13th, and I think it will actually reflect a lot of what Jose, Tammy, and Jake said today, as we'll be discussing the impact of COVID-19 on technology. So that's kind of a hint for next time. We'll be talking about that as we rebuild travel programs. Like you said, transparency, trust, and insight, so that technology is more important than ever. So if you have any questions you'd like us to address during that panel, again, please visit tcgconsulting.net/panel and submit your questions this week. Thanks again. We look forward to seeing you all next time, and all of you have a safe, healthy, and productive rest of your day. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Well done, guys. Thank you.
Bye.